Bats like to fly around in the evening. What are they doing in the evening? You just learned?
Catching for food.
They look for food, and what are they eating?
Mosquito insects.
That's right. Did you learn how many insects a bat eat at night?
No, yeah.
How many?
1,000.
Wow, that's so much. And if you were going to eat that much food, how much would you have to eat?
200.
200 what? Insects?
Hamburgers.
Hamburgers. Can you eat that much in a night? No. Hi, my name is Michelle Verant, and I'm a wildlife veterinarian with the National Park Service. I work on anything that swims and flies, so generally bats, birds, and marine mammals, but I've spent most of my time focusing on bats. It's really fun. We come in, we ask them what they know about bats, and it's amazing. A lot of them know a lot about the bats that share our environment, and I find even more than many adults that I ask. Kids, I've been really happy to think that bats are really important for our environment and are really fascinating creatures, which is the message that we're really trying to share with the people that are coming to the BioBlitz today. Have you heard of white nose syndrome before?
No.
White nose syndrome.
No.
Like white nose?
No.
Yeah, so bats that live here that fly around at night can be affected by this disease. And it's a disease that affects bats that's been killing a lot of bats. And so that's something that we're working on. White nose syndrome has had an enormous impact on bats in this area. We first found it in New York around 2006. And since then we've found some populations have disappeared. By 98%, 95% of those bats are gone, of those species that are highly affected. So it's having a major impact on bats in this area. When I was in school, we first learned about white nose syndrome and what an impact it was having on this important wildlife species. And there was so much that we didn't know about bats. And it was such a devastating sight to see hundreds, thousands of bats dead in a site. It really motivated me to want to work on that problem and help try to understand why these bats were dying and if there's something that we could do to help them. It is hard to predict, but we do know that bats are voracious insect predators. They eat tons of insects each night, which is one of the messages that we're sharing here at the BioBlitz, is how important bats are for helping to control insect populations and help keep us safe from diseases that those insects may carry, as well as damage to crops and forests from those insect pests. It's really neat. When you get a bat up close, you get to see how fascinating, really, of an animal that it is. Its wing membrane is super thin and delicate, and you can't really appreciate that when they're flying around. You know, they're very small, they're very hard to see, but when you have them in hand, you can really appreciate that the structure of their wing is just like our hand. It's just that they have really long fingers, and each of the fingers is connected by a really thin bit of skin that forms the wing. So you get to see these similarities between bats and us. Yeah, I was doing a survey of bats hibernating within a mine, and there was one bat that was banded. So one way that scientists can track individual bats is by essentially putting a metal bracelet over the wing of a bat, and that's something that stays with that bat. So we know when that bat was banded, when it was last captured, and maybe how old that bat is. So there was a bat that was hibernating up on the wall of the cave, and it was close enough that we could reach it, and we had a band on it, so we wanted to know where that bat was last captured and maybe how old it was. And we took it down, and that bat was banded before I was born. So that bat was older than I was, and it was living in this mine, and it had come in there every winter for over 30 years. And that was a pretty special moment. Bats are really important animals for our ecosystem, and they play a lot of important roles, but we do find that bats can carry diseases that can affect humans, which makes people afraid of them. But we find that killing bats isn't the answer, because these bats are suffering from the same diseases, and they're dying from those diseases as well. The thing to remember is bats can have rabies, and we can't tell. So like this board here, let's say these were bats. Could you tell if one of these bats had rabies just by looking at it? No, we don't know. So in the wild, most bats are healthy. But if a bat is flying around during the day, like let's say a bat flew into our tent right now, that's a bat we want to be careful, because that one is not acting normally, and that one might have rabies. So we want to make sure to tell a grown-up, and we don't want to touch it.
It might not be rabies, but we're not going to walk up to the bat and say, hey guys, something wrong with you?
That's right.
Okay.
That's really good advice. Thank you.
I would like to be a veterinarian when I grow up.
You would? That's great. What would you like to work on? What's your favorite animal?
I really don't have a favorite animal.
No? I don't have a favorite either. I like them all. Although bats are pretty cool. Well, good job today.
Thank you.
Have fun.